welcome to yet another episode. Today we have a general topic that everyone seems to be very concerned about, which is, can you blame them? It's government corruption. We've been living with it for years. And today we're going to attempt and kind of break it down for people. What are the issues that we need to address right away? What are the issues that can be addressed maybe a little bit later? We will bring in current issues in Trump administration, and we will attempt to break it down for you. So let's start back.
And what's funny about that too is that so many Americans don't really think of the government as being corrupt. I remember serving in the State Department overseas and complaining about corruption in the Middle East, because if you wanted to have your telephone line installed, I'm talking about the days before cell phones, you had to slip the guy a couple of $100.
Right.
Yeah, I had a plumbing problem and I had to bribe a plumber to come over to the house. That's kind of petty day-to-day corruption. The corruption that we're talking about is corruption like, for example, spending 30 years at the CIA, retiring on a Friday, going back in on Monday with a different colored badge, making 10 times what you were making at the agency because you just joined your buddy's LLC and you get a no-bid contract.
Absolutely.
That happens every single day.
Crazy.
How is that not corruption? It's American taxpayers' money going to a private company to do exactly what the CIA was doing for a tenth of the price. You and I offline talked about a company. I won't name it.
Yeah.
Just so that I can speak freely.
Right.
This company didn't exist in the very early 1990s. And then a very senior CIA officer retired and just made an LLC. And he only made it so he and his friends could use it as a tax pass-through. And they could smoke cigars and play cards and hang out together and write it off as a tax loss. Well, then their old buddies from inside the CIA started giving them no-bid contracts. One thing led to the other, and by the end of the decade, this was a multi-billion-dollar company. Multi-billion-dollar company. And what's happened is that they were passed no-bid contracts, and then as soon as the person who authorized the contract retired, the company would hire that person. And then the next generation of senior CIA officers would give them no-bid contracts. That's corruption. And that happens every single day.
Absolutely. And you should know, like I said, you worked for the agency. You saw it. How unfortunate that you are not part of it right now. Okay? Could you imagine how much money you could have made?
I'd be rich. And another thing that's kind of funny, not ha-ha funny, but in an ironic way, is that the government, not just the CIA, but the CIA, the Pentagon, the State Department, the whole national security apparatus will make a very big deal about somebody wanting to win a Pentagon contract or a CIA contract and taking people out to a strip club, let's say, to try to win the contract. Oh, and then lo and behold, there's, a dozen felony charges pressed against the person. And then there's an all-hands email that goes out saying, oh, don't do things like this. This is corruption.
Right.
Well, it's a different kind of corruption, sure. But how have these other guys gone through their whole lives making between, $50,000 and $180,000, and then they retire and they're worth $25 million?
All of a sudden. Absolutely, because they were little good boys when they were in the agency, and they were kind of docile horses, and they got what they got. Price sound like you, who actually blew the whistle and did the right thing. Now you go to jail. So let's talk about for some people who still don't get it, like when we talk about military-industrial complex and we speak about how corrupt it is, people really, you have to understand they have their little jobs or very important jobs or whatever. There are many people out there who don't pay attention to what's going on in the government, especially with the military-industrial complex. So when we say it's corrupt, they don't quite understand how. Let's talk about rigging the prices. Let's talk about revolving door. Let's talk about how government contractors are getting way more for building the same jet, for example, that you and I could build like much cheaper. So could you like explain to people
my gosh.
where the price rigging starts?
This is a problem that runs so deeply that we won't be able to expose all of it here on this show. But price rigging has been a problem for the last 250 years. And it happens all the time. And sometimes people get caught and sometimes they don't get caught. But price rigging is a very big problem.
Right.
Another problem is kickbacks, right? So there was an admiral who was just arrested, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago, for accepting kickbacks, for approving a contract on a it was a no-bid contract, so that he got his 10% or 5% or whatever it was. And his only regret in his statement of regret was that he got caught.
Wow.
This kind of thing happens all the time. So let's talk about the F-35 as the most obvious example.
Flying duck, that's what it is.
Everybody who knows anything about military aviation said this F-35 was a bad idea. What the situation had been before the development of the F-35 was that each one of the uniformed services had its own fighter jets, right? F-14s, F-16s, F-18s, everybody had their own. The A-10 Warthog, everybody loved it, close in, you could strafe tanks or whatever. And then somebody had the brilliant idea to make just one jet that does everything. Well, experts said, yeah, great idea, not possible. Can't do it. Nonsense. Congress is smarter than the experts. So Congress allocates billions upon billions of dollars to develop the F-35, and they give it to Lockheed Martin. So Lockheed develops it, gives it to all of the uniformed services. They try it out. They're crashing. People are ejecting. And then you can't sell it like that.
Of course.
So you have to sell a degraded version. I don't know if you know this. I think most people probably don't know it. You know it. But for example, as it was being developed, the Israelis came to us and they said, we want this F-35. And we said, okay, you can be the first country that gets the F-35, but we're going to slightly degrade the avionics because if one gets shot down, we don't want the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians or anybody else to be able to reverse engineer it to see what the F-35 can actually do. So we're going to give you the F-35, but we're going to call it the F-35I for Israel. Okay? And then the Emirates said, well, wait a minute, if you're going to give it to the Israelis, we want the F-35 too because we live right next door to the Iranians and we may need to fight them. We said, okay, we're going to give you the F-35E for Emirates. So it's the same as the Israeli one, just with a different letter. And we kept the F-35, the actual F-35. That's great. But the problem is none of them work as well as the F-14, 16, and 18 were working. Or the A-10 that literally everybody loved, that they said, oh, well, no, that's from the Vietnam War. We're going to stop making it. Why? When it works and everybody loves it.
I was about to say, if I was Israel, hopefully never, but if I was, part of Israeli, diplomatic aspect of things, I wouldn't even buy it. Well, honestly, if I was Israel or Saudi Arabia, I wouldn't even buy a flying turkey.
Well, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sure, that's true. But you know what they did?
What?
You know what they did? They took the F-35I and then they dispatched dozens of spies all across the United States to steal the information that would allow them to upgrade the avionics to what the U.S. is using.
Wow. Wow. Good luck with that. I mean, as I understand, even with the avionics that we are using, it's
still no good.
Still no good.
And this is part of an ongoing problem. First of all, just to tie the knot on the F-35, the Iranians claim that they've shot 2 of them down in the last couple of days in this war that they're having with the Israelis. The Israelis said publicly, all F-35s return home, all pilots are accounted for. But the Iranians released a video of an F-35 being shot down north of Tehran and the pilot parachuting down to safety.
Is this one of those Israeli ones that we gave?
You tell
Probably. Yeah, right. I would think that's exactly what's happening. So, yeah, but as I understand, we have F-22 that's equally expensive. Not as expensive as F-35,
Nothing
correct?
is as expensive as the F-35.
F-35 was supposed to be this like mega jet or whatever. It didn't work out for them. And I've spoken to pilots. That's why I can simply say that's what they called it, flying duck.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not agile at all.
No.
So it was
supposed to do everything. It's supposed to be stealth. And then you can take off from an aircraft carrier or from a land runway. Like, why?
But as I understand, we're not selling F-22. I could be wrong. The Rapture, because that is more efficient plane, as I understand. The fighter jet,
that's my understanding as well.
Yeah. So, but do you think that any of them are worth the money that American people are giving?
No, and this is another problem related to corruption. The problem is year after year after year, going back to the 1950s, the Pentagon will come in and say, we want X amount of money for next year's budget. And Congress says, we'll give you that amount and we'll give you another 15%. And the Pentagon says, that's great. We don't know what we'll spend it on because we don't need it, but we'll take it. Is it any wonder that the Pentagon has failed 7 consecutive audits to the point where the most important auditing firm in the world, PricewaterhouseCoopers, gave up in the middle of the last audit and said it can't be done? That fully half of the Pentagon's hardware can't be located, can't be accounted for.
Unbelievable.
If that's not the definition of corruption, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and I have a question. Where is this money? Where do you think is the money? Where do you think it is?
I think most of it has probably just been squandered.
Right.
It's probably been wasted. It's actually hard to steal cash from government. There's always a paper trail. It's very easy to get caught.
Right.
But it's very difficult to catch people
Could it be going to intelligence? Sorry to interrupt. Could it be going to operations, overthrowing people, and so on?
100% yes.
Right.
100% yes.
It takes a lot of money.
There was a senator, there was a Democratic senator from Wisconsin named William Proxmire. William Proxmire was very, very unusual for a couple of reasons. First, he's the one who took Joseph McCarthy's seat. When McCarthy died of alcoholism in the 1950s. You remember the McCarthy era and the Red Scare.
Yep.
So Proxmire was a liberal Democrat, solidly liberal Democrat. And if there was one thing that Proxmire hated, it was waste, government waste. So in the 1970s, mid-1970s, he created this kind of phony award that he would give out every month called the Golden Fleece Award. And it was a spray-painted sheep's wool, spray painted gold. And he would give it every month to the government agency or department that had ripped off the American people the worst that month. Now, that was a great idea, right? But it used to drive the CIA absolutely crazy because the CIA budget is secret, or in some cases top secret. And it's never published, ever. In American history. It's never been published. What the CIA does is it takes elements of the budget, line items of the budget, and it sticks it in everybody else's budget all around government. So when you see a line item in the Pentagon budget for $100 million to study the mating habits of Costa Rican snails, okay, there is no such program. That's just made up. That's a CIA covert activity.
Is that real?
Yeah, such things are real.
Yeah.
Or to help monkeys procreate or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Those programs don't actually exist. That money is secretly transferred to the CIA so that it has its budget.
Right.
Well, then something like 9/11 happens, where the CIA gets a multi-billion-dollar supplement to its multi-billion-dollar budget. and it makes it that much more difficult to hide it. Well, if it's secret in the first place and nobody knows about it, how hard could it be to steal from it?
Exactly.
Even on a very small scale, when I was in Pakistan, I was the head of CIA counterterrorism operations in Pakistan. And my budget there was literally unlimited. And I spent millions of dollars. But I took this young first tour case officer under my wing, and I told her, you're going to have the most important job in the station right now. You're going to be the head of finance, right? So every dollar that we spend, every dollar that we give to the Pakistanis, we have to account for it. And when the operation, in this case to catch Abu Zubaydah, is completed, we have to balance our books to the dollar. I said, I'll tell you something that my first station chief told me. There are only 3 people that can wreck your career. Security, medical, and finance. Finance can send you to prison. She said, okay. So as part of these operations, we bought more equipment than you can shake a stick at. Everything from battering rams to bulletproof vests to night vision goggles, guns, ammunition, secure communications, encrypted walkie-talkies, satellite dishes. And at the end of it, headquarters said, just throw it away or just give it to the Pakistanis. We don't want to bring it back. Wow. So I said to the brigadier general that I was working with, Pakistani brigadier general, General Mohammed, we would like to make a gift of all this equipment. He's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's so advanced. My people don't have any of it. So it was truckloads of equipment.
Crazy. You mean like we left a bunch of equipment in Afghanistan without any...
Well, it's better than that. Yeah. It's better than that. Truckloads we delivered to him. And then a couple of weeks later, I said to the colonel, who was my day-to-day contact, so glad you guys are going to be so well equipped with all the stuff that we turned over. He said, what stuff? I said, literally all the stuff, the guns, the ammo, the battering rams, the walkie-talkies, the satellites. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. The general just took it. And I can tell you what he did with it.
Wow. He probably sold it.
To the Taliban.
Right.
Of course.
Wow.
Of course he did.
Absolutely crazy.
Sure, because he wants to retire in a nice big house someday too.
So not only sometimes we directly arm Taliban, sometimes we indirectly arm Taliban, and then we fight them. How smart. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that goes to show how corrupt the government is. And I remember you told me this. We can cut it if you don't want it. Like... simple parking ticket. They used to tell you not to spend less on a parking or something, like go and park in the most expensive parking spot. Was it like something like that?
I'll tell you 2 short stories related to that.
Yes.
I would always fly out of Dulles Airport because that's the international airport in Washington. So you can fly directly to the Middle East, and then from Dubai or Doha, you can go anywhere else that you want. And sometimes you have to go and switch out passports and what have you, depending on the operation that you're doing. So I would always go, and when I had to park for more than, a couple of days, I would park in the value lot. Like the one where you have to sit there for 45 minutes and wait for the purple bus to come, take you to the purple lot, right? So I was always very good about doing my paperwork. And my boss came up to me one day and he said, did you park in the economy lot at the airport? I said, yeah. He said, why? I said, because it's $9 a day and the daily lot is $25 a day. And he says, don't try to save the government money. Well, he told me later he parked in the valet lot, which was $60 a day, and I'm out in the $9 a day economy lot. So I continued to park in the economy lot. It just didn't make sense to me to just throw away the American people's money. Well, one day, a scientist from another country arrived in Pittsburgh to attend a seminar. And my boss said, hey, listen, Ahmed Shmahmed is in Pittsburgh. I want you to go bump him. Bump him means approach him and say, hey, psst, I know who you are. You probably know who I am. We need to have dinner and a conversation. Well, I don't remember why this happened, but I had to change my pants. that morning. And I had my driver's license out with a $5 bill, but my wallet with my credit cards, I left in my other pants. So I'm busy, I'm nervous, I'm thinking about how I'm going to do this approach, and I go to the airport and I don't have my wallet. I have my driver's license so I can get on the plane, and I have a $5 bill. That's it. I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to get fired. So I get on the plane, I fly to Pittsburgh. Well, it's a $30 cab ride into town, and I only have $5 with no credit card. So I walk up to the Red Cross emergency aid desk, and I said, is there a bus that goes into Pittsburgh? And she said, yeah, it's long, she says. It goes to every suburb before it gets to Pittsburgh. I said, how much is it? She says, $250. I said, oh my God. Okay. So I cash in my $5 bill for 4 ones and 4 quarters. I go out to the bus stop, get on the bus. It takes me an hour to go the 7 miles, into Pittsburgh. I go, I bump the guy. He tells me go screw myself, so there's not going to be a dinner. I take the bus back to the airport like this, get on the plane, and fly to Washington. The next day, I'm in the office. I fill out my accounting paperwork. He comes up to me and he says, damn you, did you spend $5 on that trip to Pittsburgh? And I said, yes, but listen, there's a story behind it. And I told him, I just forgot my wallet, and I happen to have a $5 bill. Don't try to save the government money. So the next trip was to Dubai. And I was just overnighting there because I had to go on to, one of the shithole countries, as Donald Trump said. So I overnight, and there happens to be a Lebanese nightclub in the lobby of the hotel. Very nice hotel. Mm-hmm. So I went into the nightclub, and I was the first person there because it was 7 o'clock. Right. And they don't really get going till midnight. So I said, I don't want to stay for the show. I just have a real hankering for Lebanese food. And he said, oh, well, we only sell the package. It's the show and a big shisha pipe. And I said, I don't need any of that stuff. I just want Lebanese food. He said, I have to charge you the full thing. I said, how much is it? He said, $195. I said, give it to me. All I ate was a salad. I had a salad, and I paid $195. And I went back, and he said, okay, now, you see, now that's a dinner. He said, you probably had what, a nice bottle of wine? You had a steak? I said, no, actually, I ate a fattoush salad. It was $195. And he says, well, how could that possibly be? I said, you told me stop trying to save the government money. So I wanted a fattoush. Everything was one price. I ate the fattoush. But you can't win in government. You just can't win, especially when you're in an organization like the CIA where nobody cares about the money.
Right.
The money is the last thing that you should worry about.
They just throw it at the wall, see whatever sticks. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's crazy. It.
I went up to, excuse me one second, a couple of days after 9/11, mm-hmm. I went up to Kofor Black, who was the director of the CIA's counterterrorism program. I said, Kofor, I've got an idea for an operation that I want to pass by you. He put up his hands like this, and he says, listen, whatever it is, just do it. I have so much money, I can't possibly spend it all.
Wow.
One of the things that the CIA did right after 9/11, because we had so much money, everybody went business class, no matter where you were going. Anywhere in the world, business class, knock yourselves out.
Absolutely not. And that's where your money goes, where most Americans are working 2 jobs to survive.
That's right.
That's where your money goes. That's your government corruption. Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. All right. With that, let's kind of transition to what is Trump doing. So he ran on the platform that he would stop the war and he would clean up the government this time and all of that. All right. Opinions. I mean, so far, I feel like he's not even doing 20% of what he said he would do.
I have to agree. I deep down, I want to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Right.
Because what's going on.
I do.
He's like a pack of
daunting.
wolves. Yeah.
It's daunting. No president fully understands the power of the deep state. Right. And when you only have 8 years, and in this case, Donald Trump has 4 years, you can't defeat the deep state in 4 years. And the first 4 years, he was just sort of learning the ropes and allowed himself to be played by the deep state. When you name the likes of Mike Pompeo, who's like the godfather of the deep state, and then replace him with Gina Haspel, who's the poster child for the deep state, and you have John Bolton as your national security advisor, who is the guy to perpetuate the deep state, then, what the heck are you thinking? What do you think is going to happen?
Right.
So he came the second time. He wants to do the right thing. He appoints bona fide outsiders to some of these important positions. But then he buckles to the neocons.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump said he was going to end the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours. Nobody actually believed he was going to be able to do that. But we all, I think, believed that he was going to put sufficient pressure on the Ukrainian government to force them to come to some sort of an agreement with the Russians. Everybody assumed.
He started well.
It did. Things did start well.
Right, with Zelensky in the White House.
Yeah.
And he laid on him. Yeah. And not only him, but also, absolutely, J.D. Vance. And but then something changed. Like he goes to Vatican, as I recall, it was a funeral of the Pope, right?
Yep.
And he sits quietly with Zelensky, this former, actor that used to play piano with his dick. It's real, guys.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and things change.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Zelensky. Zelensky could not convince anybody by himself.
Certainly not.
So obviously he's, again, being manipulated by forces. It's almost like people say, like, whoever talks the last to Donald Trump, that's exactly what's going to pass. That's embarrassing.
Unfortunately, that's what I've heard from insiders too. He's easily influenced by the last person he's spoken to.
So I'm curious. This is a good segue into the Elon Musk and Trump coordination efforts. Your opinion on, do you think that the whole split of Elon and Trump was coordinated by them on purpose?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think Elon Musk would have tweeted what he tweeted about Donald Trump being implicated in the Epstein files.
But now the left wants the Epstein files out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The thing is, I think, okay, I'll tell you what I think, and then I'm interested what John thinks about this. So I think that Elon is a genius, but I also think that he's a baby. I think he's a very reactive baby. And, maybe it's his Asperger's, maybe it's his hey, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm very emotional myself, and I don't tolerate when, people throw shit at me. So I understand Elon's position. I always said from the get-go, hey, guy came in, you called him. He didn't just insert himself in the government. You called him. So guy comes in, takes care of Doge, cuts whatever needs to be cut. I mean, obviously, like sending, condoms. Remind me again, where were they sending condoms?
Yeah, it was to Africa someplace.
Yeah, some African place. And people, by the way, it was a misconception. They said Gaza, but not the Gaza that we know. No. It was an African place somewhere. So obviously, he knew that there's a lot of crap that goes on, and we need to kind of get rid of it, and he did. But then his company kind of, nosedived because of what he was doing. So he sacrificed years of building Tesla, which he acquired when Tesla was dying, in his own words. So here's the dying company that he saved with blood and sweat and investments, and all of a sudden he went in to do greater good in Washington, and his companies took a huge hit, not just Tesla, but also other companies. People were literally burning cars down. So a little appreciation, would have been nice.
Well, let me disagree.
Okay.
Elon Musk knew nothing about how government operates. You can't just go in and fire people. We have this thing called the Civil Service Act.
Right.
And so he would go in and say, we're laying off 200 people. Sorry, Chief. No, we're not. That's not how Washington works. You have to work within the confines of the law. And then he would just move on to the next,
Right.
to the Social Security Administration
Right.
or the Office of Personnel Management or 14 people at the CIA because they were working in DEI, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. You can transfer people around. You can make their jobs so uncomfortable that they leave on their own volition. But you can't just
But
go
that
in and say,
takes
I'm going to
time,
downsize.
John. I actually...
Well, but that's real life. Yeah, it takes time. We have 3 separate but equal branches of government.
Yeah.
If you want to cut government, you have to go to Congress and have them authorize the cut.
I get your point completely. The problem is, I think that doing things the old way and giving them, let's go to Congress. Since when Congress made any right decisions about anything? So the problem is, I'm on Team Elon here. Like, get rid of them.
That's the situation we have. It's
Right.
not that you can
No, I
just
understand
decide
your point.
I'm just going to cut Congress out because they're inefficient.
Right.
It's that's the law.
Yeah.
You have to abide by the law. Everybody filed federal lawsuits against Doge and against Elon Musk, and they've all won.
Yeah.
Because you can't just bring this guy, he's just some guy, in and say, yeah, you're fired and we're closing that office and we're not going to do this anymore. And you can't do that.
What I would agree with, it should have been better coordinated. I agree with that. But I think that the instincts of Elon is right. Government is full of fat and they need to go. And they are, you just talked about it. Like, it's full of fat.
Sure,
it's full of extra money. They need to go, but we need a better system.
What they should have done is to work with Congress before the election.
Agreed.
So that
100%.
they had
100%.
a plan.
Yeah.
What was it? Plan to Save America or whatever the heck it was called in the 90s that Newt Gingrich had, where they would come up with a plan to say, we're going to slash the federal budget and this is how we're going to do it. If we win a majority in the 2 houses of Congress, which they ended up winning, and the White House, which they also ended up winning, implement this plan. Because remember, on budget issues, there's no filibuster.
Right.
You only need 51 votes in the Senate, or 50 plus the vice president. And in the House, it's just a simple majority of 50% plus 1.
Right.
But they didn't even it didn't even occur to them that
Right.
there's an appropriations and authorization process that you go through to do this kind of thing. They just figured out we'll just wing it, we'll just fire everybody, they can sue us, and we'll probably win. And they didn't win; they lost.
Yeah. So I would agree with that. They should have had a better plan. Let's go back to Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I mean, this fight was like children.
Yeah.
Like the children.
Yeah, but Donald Trump addressed it as an adult.
I agree. He had a good comments. He said, I don't know what's wrong with
He could have
Elon.
blown up, and he didn't.
Yeah. Well, he's the president after all, and he's smart enough to know how to address these situations. As I recall, he said, I helped Elon a lot, so he was kind of hurt. You could tell he was hurt.
Yeah, he was.
And then Elon apologized, which was a little bit too late, but still. What's the deal with these Epstein files?
Who are they protecting, and why haven't they come out yet?
And why would Elon get so dirty to put?
He knew a buzzword to throw out into social media, I think, to get people riled up.
Yeah. And it was like, what was the retweet count? It was like incredible amount.
Yeah.
So why do you think that happened?
I think that Elon Musk was angry and hurt and lashing out.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind, Elon Musk didn't have access to the Epstein files.
Yes.
So how would he know if
he
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files or not? I think Donald Trump probably is not, other than the fact that he had been to the island once or twice.
Yeah, he's also was pretty, as I understand, he had good relationship with Epstein himself.
Everybody did.
And
the Clintons did, he did, Bush did,
exactly.
Everybody did.
The
Kennedy's,
Obama's,
sure,
Okay.
everybody did.
Let's get real, guys. I don't fault these people, okay? So people are, oh my gosh, you're on Epstein Island. I could have been on a Epstein Island, excuse me, because it was an operation. This is what people don't understand. John could have been there. You could have been there. So let's say some guy who you don't really know who he is other than he's a financier. That's how he presented himself, and that's how people talked about it. He's a financier. Some financier invites you on a private jet on an island. Yeah, you wouldn't go. Like, how the heck do you know what you're walking into? This happened. I come from a Hollywood background. This happened to me all the time. Oh, there's a party. Guess what? You network. during the party. So for us, it was like every actor will tell you, every starter, producer, director will tell you, be at every freaking party, because that's where networking happens, right? So these people are like, okay, well, Prince is going to be there. What? Prince Andrew? Like, wouldn't you go? You wouldn't go? Of course you would go.
Of course you would.
Everything is funded.
Well, right? The situation with Bobby Kennedy Jr., I think, is very telling.
Yes.
For a while, people were saying, oh my God, Bobby Kennedy Jr. was on Epstein's plane. And he said, yeah, I was, with my wife and all my kids.
Right.
Because he said his wife had met Epstein at some dinner party, whatever, in New York, and mentioned that they were going to Palm Beach for Easter. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, do you want to ride? I have to stop in Palm Beach, and I'm going to go to my island from there.
There you go.
And she said, sure, we'd love a ride. Mm-hmm. And so the Kennedy family got on the plane in New York. They flew to Palm Beach. They got off, and Epstein went onto the island. That was it. And for a little while, people tried to make a big deal that, oh my God, Bobby Kennedy was on the Epstein plane.
Do you think that's kind of like the same case as Trump?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
I agree with that. And like I said, the list itself doesn't bother me. It could be anybody in there. What bothers me is who actually, like Prince Andrew, for example, found out. I mean, you're not stupid. Like, let's say we take your example. Mm-hmm. You go on an island. Everything was set up for you. It's great. Okay, we're having fun. And all of a sudden, a very young girl walks in. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're not going to ask an age.
Right.
You're just going to go and her, excuse my language. No, like this is the problem I have. So from all of these people in the list, which one of them actually had sexual relationship on the island?
There was cameras everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right?
Right.
So, like, we know who
right.
was implicated and who's not.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the question I have. Like, those bother me, right? It could have been, I mean, God's sakes, Stephen Hawking was there.
Yeah.
But what
he's not banging a 16-year-old.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, this is why I don't care about the list. What I care about is what Dim Bongino and, what's his name, Kash Patel are doing with the tapes. And why is it so freaking secret? Wasn't Kash Patel all about, it's with the FBI is so corrupt? Well, now you are leading FBI. Yeah. So what now?
That's exactly right.
Why do you think these two, who I actually liked, I really enjoyed, Kash Patel, his interviews. I was like, okay, this is a guy can go in and clean up corruption in the FBI. Maybe I'm naive to think so. And then, of course, they, get Dim Bongino, another one who's trusted by everybody, including media. And both of them come out and like two little guilty kids.
They have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself.
He killed himself. Mm-hmm. He just killed himself. Like, I've seen evidence, and they get so panicky about it. I've seen it. Like,
yep.
Okay, dude.
They don't want you to see it.
No. But they've seen it.
I actually believe that he killed himself, and I've said it from the very beginning.
Yes.
Only because I've been in prison. And I know that everybody in the prison industrial complex has his head up his ass.
Okay.
Listen, to be a prison guard, you only need 2 qualifications. You either have to have or be working on a GED and no felony convictions. I can't tell you how many times prisoners had to do mail call because the guard who was supposed to do mail call couldn't read. That's who we have guarding our prisons.
Even the ones that he was in. I mean, this is
especially the ones that the one that he was in, because nobody wants to be in the violent prisons. If you have 2 ounces of brains, you're going to be in the minimum security or the low security, not the maximum security MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center. And so I remember speaking to a friend of mine who was convinced that he was murdered. And I said, look at this one step at a time. The guards are not supposed to work more than 8 hours, okay? Mm-hmm. Both of the guards on that unit had worked double shifts, 16 hours, right? Because they're short-staffed. You're not supposed to work more than 8 hours. Okay, they do it anyway, number 1. Number 2, the camera was broken. Guess what? All the cameras are broken. That's why people are always having sex in the chapel or underneath the stairs when you go down to the mailroom,
Hey,
or
John.
in the gym.
How do you know that?
Because I'm like, that's
Just
one thing
kidding.
people do, and you can't control yourselves for 6 months that you're here.
Some kid, okay?
You know? So the cameras are always broken.
Right.
If somebody is suicidal or thought to be suicidal, he's supposed to be placed in a room with windows on 4 sides. And you have volunteer prisoners just sitting there in a chair like this, staring at him, 4-hour shifts, 24 hours a day to make sure that he doesn't kill himself. And he's not given sheets. His sheets are made of paper, so he can't tie a knot and hang himself. And every step of the way, there was a breakdown.
Okay, the question I have, do you think that's intentional breakdown? Because
That's
those...
a different question.
Yeah.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you think that, okay, now let's talk about his mindset. Epstein, this is a guy who, I mean, obviously he knows what he got himself into. He's not stupid. He was in jail before, as I understand, and they, freed him. Mm-hmm. So he's dealing with some serious people out there, some very heavyweights. So he killed, let's say he wanted to kill himself. It's obviously not because he's, sad about what he did. It's obviously because he knows that he's a walking information hazard. Mm-hmm. So why do you think, first of all, do you think a psychopath like him or sociopath like him, you gotta be, would even attempt that?
Oh, yeah. And I think especially for a sociopath, it would be a rather easy decision.
Really?
Yeah, it would be devoid of emotion. He would consider just the practicalities. He was, 60 years old, almost 60 years old. He's looking at probably, second offense, probably 25, 27 years. Mm-hmm. And pedophiles are not eligible to go to minimum security work camps. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his days.
Right.
And so it's better to be dead.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know unless I look at certain, videos or evidence, and so far they produced absolutely nothing. That's the question mark for me. Okay, he killed himself. Great, show us. Mm-hmm. Show us what you have. What's the deal?
Yeah, what's the big secret? Just lay out the evidence.
Exactly, and everyone
lay
will
out
shut
the evidence,
up.
and everybody's going to walk away.
Right.
Yeah,
But they won't.
They won't.
They won't lay out the evidence.